Welcome. This is the second part of our discussion of mobile technologies and mobile learning. And to start, we'll talk about two different kinds of access to content on mobile devices. The two that I'm talking about specifically are apps versus the mobile web. So apps are tied to the device. What that means is that iPhone apps are made specifically for iPhone, Android apps are made specifically for Android, etc., etc. BlackBerry has their own set of apps. The mobile web is basically a web page that is on the internet. So any browser from any of the platforms, whether you're accessing on a BlackBerry or whether you're accessing on a Microsoft OS phone, you'll be looking through their browser, but you're looking at the same web page that exists. So let me reiterate, there's a big differentiation here. When folks are developing for the mobile landscape, it's a very expensive process to develop apps. The reason that folks are developing apps is because you can access other elements of the smartphone. Meaning, when an iPhone app is developed, it can also access the GPS capability. It can access the video player and other parts of the operating system of the phone itself. Whereas in the mobile web, you're stuck on a web page, and so everything needs to be developed on the web page. That being said, you only have to develop one web page, and like web development for desktop computers, it's much faster and it works across all of the different platforms. So at the beginning, sort of right now, of the mobile landscape, a lot of attention is going to the mobile web and gearing up towards the app market. It's sort of happening in parallel. And so when we think of the future of mobile learning, we'll have to watch and see whether we move to an app landscape, or like we access WebCT right now through the web. Is it going to be web primarily through the web? So the audience for apps, once again, it's because it's tied to the device, it's pretty specific. But once you get, say, an Android client to download your app, they're going to be pretty faithful to downloading upgrades to that app and using that app because that's the one that works for their phone. On the other side of the spectrum, the audience for the mobile web, that's breadth, meaning that anybody that can access a mobile web page has the capability to do so using the mobile web. Right now, it's estimated that 300 million people have access to the mobile web right now, either through feature phones, which is very lo-fi, or predominantly through smartphones, which is going to be the key way that folks will be accessing the mobile web, either through that or the browsers on their tablets. And once again, the concept of distribution changes too. A user has to go out and specifically download an app, and that has to be pushed through an app store. Each of these platforms has an app store that the user goes to, and these app stores are monitored by the platforms themselves, and so it's sort of a push distribution mode. Whereas the mobile web, the user's in control, and just like any web page, they decide whether they're going to go to that page or not. So it's much more of a pull mode depending on what the user wants to visit. Now, we need to keep in mind that content delivery for mobile is changing. There are other players in media specifically that are looking at mobile devices and the future of mobile devices for their industries. And mobile broadcast is something big that's coming. Lots of stations around the country, both television and radio, are retrofitting antennas to push through a certain spectrum that they're setting aside specifically for mobile devices. Some phones already have mobile television tuners built into them. In the next few years, we're going to see these apps roll out, and they most probably will be built right into the operating systems of the mobile devices. But you'll be able to access television and radio through a tuner much like you would an antenna right now. Now, the biggest thing that's holding this up is what the business model is going to be, and whether that's going to be for pay or whether that's going to be free. And so, as that industry is trying to figure that out, there are a lot of folks working on sort of beta testing, pushing content using broadcast. Now, the reason I bring this up and the reason it's relevant in instructional technology, we've used both television and radio in distance learning for years and years, ITVS and etc. So these strategies and the use of previously existing broadcast antennas to help us in the mobile learning landscape is definitely a possibility, and something that we should not ignore. So let's talk about mobile learning. A lot of studies have hit probably within the last 3-4 years discussing mobile learning. The first articles, and I've included a few of these in the optional readings, are really sort of discussing how are we defining mobile learning. And then studies have looked at instructional design and learning and cognition, such as are learners retaining information that they're interacting with via mobile devices, and then system designs, meaning how are we going to build systems? Are we going to build apps? Are we going to let our learners access through the mobile web? Some of the studies have used SMS, which is text messaging based instructional design, which is an interesting approach. Other folks have used app-based instructional designs, having learners get together using apps like Skype and basically creating a conference call like environment where seminar and discussion can take place. Asynchronous instructional designs enable users to access materials similar like we do for our class, say via YouTube, or accessing podcasts, which then can be listened to, or if they're video podcasts, watched. Unfortunately, the dominant form of technology in traditional distance learning at this point is utilizing content management systems like WebCT or like Moodle. And unfortunately, the CMSs at this point are not keeping up, meaning that they are not making their applications friendly to mobile browsers, and they haven't created any apps. So let me demonstrate. Here are a few screenshots from my iPhone of what it looks like when I access WebCT. Basically, what you see is the same page that you would see when you accessed WebCT via your desktop. Now the problem here is that it's in miniature. This is you have to remember that the screen's maybe 2 inches by 3 inches, and so when you read the text here, it's not formatted for mobile devices at all. Now I can zoom in on certain areas of this web page, and I can still interact with WebCT. But my sort of soapbox at this point is that if WebCT and content management systems are going to remain the dominant form of distance education when we start to talk about the mobile landscape, then they're going to need to create mobile-friendly web pages, mobile-friendly access to elements of the content management system, like discussion forums and the capability to upload assignments. Right now, WebCT is not really trying that hard to keep up with the mobile landscape, and I think the reason for that is that everybody's taking a step back to see how the mobile device battle, as it were, is going to shake out. It's going to shake out in the next few years. There's going to sort of become a standard tablet type and smartphone type, and I think at that point then a lot of companies like WebCT will then come back and upgrade their applications for mobile access. But as instructional designers, and when we think about teaching via new technologies, we need to be a little more forward thinking than waiting 5 years to see what the what the outcome's going to be. So the takeaway in my mind right now is that the mobile technologies really aren't there to enable the kinds of mobile learning that we're discussing at this point, but it'll be there soon. The capability for learners to go on and actually interact via a discussion forum, which really is one of the dominant ways that distance learning is done these days, is there, but it's not up to snuff in my opinion. And this is where I'll kick to the slide. What do you think? And let me know. Shoot me some emails, and we can have further discussions about mobile technologies the next time we meet in Illuminate. One last note, a lot of the information that I got here was from the mobile strategy deck that PBS Interactive just introduced a month or so ago. So thanks so much to PBS Interactive for their hard work and really taking a good survey of the mobile landscape as it is right now. And thanks OLIT 483. Talk to you soon.